Welcome to the Lowdown Underground, where soil isn't just dirt, it's a storyteller. We're here to unearth the hidden connections between land, culture, and the ecosystems beneath our feet. I'm Bailey, joined by Megan, bringing you groundbreaking stories and guests to discuss how landscapes shape us and how we shape them. What is soil really? If you think it's just dirt, you're not alone, but that definition totally misses the mark. In this episode, Megan and I dig into why so many definitions of soil are boring, limited, or just plain wrong. We explore how different people, including scientists, farmers, and artists, see soil in radically different ways. And of course, we offer our own definitions on what soil is. It's not just the stuff beneath our feet, but a living, ever-changing system. All right, let's dig in.
Bailey, let's look at different definitions of soil from Google. Like, if I literally just type in the definition of soil, the first thing that comes up from Oxford Language Dictionaries, it says, the upper layer of earth in which plants grow, a black or dark brown material typically consisting of a mixture of organic remains, clay, and rock particles.
What? Oh my god.
Hold on. Rock particles?
Yeah. I like how
Do they mean sand?
Yeah, I like how clay was in there, but
Clay, what about silt? Also, black or brown? Black or dark brown?
bro.
No.
What about when it's not
What about the reds and
all the
grays
other
and blues and greens and
in all the
yellows?
other colors?
Crazy.
Like I guess, maybe in certain parts of Minnesota it's like, hell yeah, black or brown. What
Yeah.
about when we were in South Dakota? We were on those spearfish red beds.
Yeah.
So
Well, red
looked a little redhead to me.
Yeah.
And what
Also,
did they say?
the
where
first-
plants grow?
Yeah. The first part is literally just the upper layer of earth in which plants grow.
That's cool. It's actually
Nice.
it's a habitat only for plants.
Yeah. That's
All
the
other
organisms
organisms,
exist.
you're not here. You're not part of this place.
Insane.
So
Insane.
failure. I rate that one maybe 2.5 out of 10.
I was
I'm not
gonna
gonna,
say
like,
I'd give it a
hate it.
3 for effort because they mentioned clay.
Thank you. I mean,
But
clay-
then it
clay
dropped
really
it
is
down
like,
again
bro.
when they said rock particles. And then
Yeah.
listen to this. It's the example that it's in. It says blueberries need very blueberries need very acid soil, not acidic soil. Acid soil.
Oh, okay.
But
great.
also, do they not know that blueberries make soil acidic?
I can appreciate they included an example, but
Yeah.
so like,
We
can
tried.
we go in and can we make some edits or what?
We should.
How do we content? This is wrong.
Can't you just do that on Wikipedia?
Do we
Can't you
send
just,
them this
like-
episode of the podcast?
Oh,
Because the
revise
Wikipedia
your
one has
definition.
changed, but like the Oxford Dictionary,
Yeah, Oxford let us in.
like linguist, let me come in. I have something to tell you about your definition of soil. You're wrong.
It's not acid.
Yes.
It's acidic.
I mean, at the bare minimum, get that right.
Mhm.
And the 2 letters.
Yeah.
but-
That's so.
We'll send them this episode and they can learn.
Well, that's the whole point of the episode, right? Teach anyone and everything about soils. Also, the second definition of it is literally like as a verb to make dirty.
Oh, well,
You know,
you soiled your pants.
you soiled your pants. But like, and then the second is bring discredit to or tarnish.
You soiled our names.
So you wonder why soil has such a negative connotation.
Oh, yeah, those
You know?
both are very negative things.
Crazy. So, okay.
Failure.
So here's the Wikipedia definition.
Oh, yes.
Soil, also commonly referred to as earth,
Ooh.
is a mixture of organic matter, minerals, gases, liquids, and organisms.
Oh.
Shout out organisms that
Ooh.
together support the life of plants and soil organisms. Some scientific definitions distinguish dirt from soil by restricting the former term specifically to displaced soil.
So,
Okay.
dirt and soil are different. Thank you.
Dirt and soil are different. Thanks for getting the basics right, Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia, who's out there? Who's doing that? But also, they forgot about all the organisms that rely on soil that are outside of soil.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yep.
That's cool, too.
Crazy. But also, at least they included organisms, like
Mhm.
some sort of like life aspect.
And
right?
gases and liquids.
Yeah.
They didn't have to say pores, but like,
But also,
they
there's-
get it. It's in there.
yeah.
It's liquid. There's gases. There's
They're also just
Cycling.
like listing everything though.
It's like a recipe, straight up. What makes
Yeah.
up soil? Here's the recipe.
Yeah.
1 pound of butter, 1 pound of organic matter.
Well, here's a better one from Britannica. Soil, the biologically active, porous medium that has developed in the uppermost layer of Earth's crust. Soil is one of the principal substrata of life on Earth,
Oh my god.
serving as a reservoir of water and nutrients, as a medium for the filtration and breakdown of injurious waste.
Injurious?
Yeah, apparently. Injurious waste? I don't even know what that means.
Okay.
Contaminants? Like,
Yeah, I guess that's what
it
I'm
has to be, right?
Yeah, but like,
Yeah.
I know rainwater is like a little acidic, but is it injurious?
Anyways, injurious waste.
Yes.
And a participant in the cycling of carbon and other elements through the global ecosystem.
Participant.
It has evolved through weathering processes driven by biological, climatic, geologic, and topographic influences.
Wow.
Crazy.
Better than any of the other definitions for sure. More
Yeah.
accurate, more
Britannica
encompasses
is
these
gone.
things. There's still some bones to pick with it.
Have you ever heard of Agriculture Victoria? Soil is the loose surface material that covers most land.
That's it? That's it.
It continues.
Mm.
It consists of inorganic particles and organic matter.
Okay.
Soil provides the structural support for plants used in agriculture and is also their source of water and nutrients.
Bro, these plant people. I swear to God, dude. They always think it's about the plants.
It's crazy.
I know. They're like, we manage plants. No, you manage soil.
Yeah.
No, like, actually, that one, no.
Crazy.
Shout out Agriculture Victoria.
I think it's a government agency in Australia. Here's the last one we'll do.
Yeah.
From the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization. Soil is the natural medium for the growth of plants. Soil has also been defined as a natural body consisting of layers, in parentheses, soil horizon,
Yeah.
that are composed of weathered mineral materials, organic material, air, and water. Soil is the end product of the combined influence of climate, topography, organisms, in parentheses, flora, fauna, and human,
Mm-hmm.
on parent materials, such as original rocks and minerals, over time.
Corped.
Clort.
They put it in there. That's great.
Yeah. Started off poor with growth medium for plants.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, they're not wrong, right?
not
I mean,
wrong.
like, that's
It's just
plants grow there. Just that
Yeah.
framing of it is pretty
Yeah.
disappointing in terms of, okay, I guess they did mention organisms, but
Yeah.
it's a habitat not only for plants, right?
And also, if we think about it, which one's dependent on the other?
Mhm.
We can have soil without plants.
Well, we sure do.
We cannot have plants without soil.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we need, it's kind of both though, right? Because, the plants really, they're driving also some of these weathering processes as
True.
well. They're releasing those root exudates, but
The weathering would happen
without,
with other processes without plants.
yeah, but without them, is it really the same?
It's not the same.
That's why
I guess
soil
you're
is
right.
different everywhere.
Yeah.
Soil does differ across the world.
Yeah.
So it's why defining it is hard. I liked
Yeah,
at
for
least
sure.
that one even mentioned horizons.
I know.
Most
that's the first
definitions
one.
don't even do that. In terms of what a person knows about soil,
Mm-hmm.
they probably don't even really think about that at all.
Layers.
Like,
yeah.
whatever. They're like, oh, cool, it's brown. Black or brown.
No,
Road.
it's so many different colors.
I know, the black or brown just misses all the coolest parts of the
Yeah,
the
right.
soils that we love. But like, at least that definition that we just heard was a little better than any of the other ones, but still kind of misses how you and I look at it. The Agriculture Victoria one makes you laugh.
I know.
The loose.
There's really what the
One's so loose.
loose.
What are those?
You're
Are those plants doing
like,
anything?
Actually, that's a specific soil structure, and it can't
Loose.
all identify as loose.
Yeah, it feels
not.
wrong to call it
What
loose.
about the frozen soils? They ain't loose.
Right. Plants are supposed to be holding this thing together.
Yeah.
Tell me what was wrong with the one that I sent you. It was straight out of soil taxonomy.
The unconsolidated mineral or organic matter on the surface of the earth that has been subjected to and shows effects of genetic and environmental factors of climate and macro and microorganisms, conditioned by relief, acting on parent material over a period of time.
I freaking am sold.
Shout out.
Sold to
Warped.
I mean, so pick that one apart. Why don't you like that one?
I think because if you're going to catch someone's attention about soil and completely shatter their view of dirt, you have to include a living component. Like soil is
So
a
they should further
living
emphasize
system.
it's a dynamic
Yeah.
entity changing on various timescales within seconds, minutes,
Yeah.
hours, days.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. That definition is very accurate, but I feel
Mhm.
like it is not going to catch someone's attention. They're going to be like, great
Mhm. Yeah.
rocks that have been changed.
Right. Crushed rocks. Wonderful.
Cool.
Like,
Surface.
it's like, no, like if you think about the soil system as a whole, you have mineral material, organic material of various states of decomposition.
Mm-hmm.
Some that's more like the mineral material in actual soil or how people perceive dirt,
Mm-hmm.
or plant material, roots. Living roots are a very integral part of soil. So you have the mineral part, the organic part,
Mm-hmm.
then you have your pore spaces, which are filled with air or water,
And constantly changing.
constantly changing, and those are the very dynamic places in soil, and those are the things that will change your soil throughout time. So you got to think of like all of the different components of it. It's not just crushed rock material.
Yeah, and even pores, they're so overlooked, I feel like, compared to just mineral particles.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, cool, like soil's like crushed rock. And it's like, well, what about all the spaces between that?
Yeah.
And not only that is there air and water in between that, but the actual habitat,
Yeah.
the microorganisms, like
Exactly.
ecosystem. We think about the above ground habitats for
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
animals, but there's much more life below ground
Yeah.
in terms of like,
diversity.
oh,
numbers.
yeah,
It's insane. It's
huge.
not even comparable.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. That definition does miss the whole dynamic component. It
Mhm.
doesn't sell it and how awesome it is.
It's like a textbook definition, and yes,
It's
good,
correct,
Yeah.
but
but it just
is
kind
it
of
fun?
misses.
No.
No.
I'm not having fun here. Soil's a party. Come on in.
Welcome to a soil party.
We want you here. Well, if you manage it correctly. Or just don't touch it at all, dude. Let it be. Let it be a forest.
Only if you're touching it with love.
Yeah. Where's the love in that definition? Love and care and devotion. Something that I love and care about. And it's also dynamic and
Yeah.
ecosystem, and also happens to be crushed rocks, has been altered over time by
Yeah.
various
Beautiful.
factors.
Beautiful.
Bailey's definition.
That's what
Bailey
we're
and
going to do
Megan's
today. We're going to create our own definition of soil.
Great. But how? We work in such different areas.
Where do you work, baby?
Egg City. I work in corn and soybean, wheat, and sugar beet country. Some livestock as well. I work in Minnesota. I have a statewide position based about 30 minutes south of the Twin Cities. But yeah, do a lot of agriculture. Agriculture is huge. It's a
soil health.
money maker.
Yeah.
Soil health is really important right
Yeah.
now as people are starting to see the impacts of erosion and soil degradation, which actually isn't that new.
Yep. Yeah.
NRCS, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, was formed in the 1930s because of the Dust Bowl.
Yep.
Or mid 1930s. So
For, like,
that
the
was
soil
a
conservation
huge.
service.
The soil's drying out, wind erosion. We have massive clouds of dust. Farmers lost a lot of their own soil, but then of the crops, of their livelihoods. It was a huge problem. So soil health has a lot of funding behind it, and agriculture is a really big industry in Minnesota. So we do have a lot of support to fund projects around that. And so the way that humans who manage soil might look at it versus someone who has a very inherent love of earth and soil, it's not completely explicitly separate, but oftentimes the way we have a perspective or viewpoint of soil based off how we manage the land, it might differ.
Yeah.
So that's my ag soil health kind of bias.
Yeah.
But also love ecosystems, love soil, love microbes, fungi, the whole shebang.
So,
Totally.
like, do you see a distinct difference between agricultural soils and more natural, undisturbed soils?
Yeah, this has come up with conversations with other soil folks of the definition of soil health, because in an ag world, you're really focused on the function of the soil. Is it helping intake water, regulate water, cycling nutrients, like very human-centric kind of definition of soil. Like, what does the soil do for me? What does it do for my crops? Is it helping me get the most yield out of these crops? So I think that like very human-centric definition misses the inherent value of soil. My bias is I think soil has inherent value. Whether or not we grow crops there, we're just lucky that it does. Lucky that we can live off the land, whether it be forestry for wood or crops for food or I guess feeding our cars.
Right. But in the large picture, the majority of people on Earth have a direct connection to soil through agriculture. Like that is that's the gateway drug to soil, right?
True. Myself personally, I came from a plants focused background. And it's crazy to think there was a time in my life where it was like, yeah, the brown stuff just happens to be where the plants grow and it's the above ground, it's beautiful. And then, you know, you start to learn more about soil, learn about the earth, about all the amazing stuff that's happening below ground, that whole ecosystem. And you're like, oh, how did I miss all that?
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're managing plants and they're really managing soil to feed the plants or to support the plant life. So I think it's something that people, they work very closely with it, but there's not always that same valuation of the fact that that's an ecosystem. It's not just the lifeless medium that plants grow in.
Right. But, you know, if that's someone's first understanding of soil, great. That's a fantastic first step because we've all, well, maybe a lot of us have tried to plant a plant and then it just dies. And we don't understand why.
Yes.
And the answer lies within our soil. And if you don't understand your soil, you can't provide for a plant.
Yeah.
I did not follow the plant to soil pipeline.
Well, that is just
I jumped straight into soil.
Whatever that dude in Hole says. I'm tired of digging, Grandpa. Well, that's too damn bad. Your first interaction with soil was watching the movie Holes. Right.
No, actually. But
well, you grew up working with the soil. For me, you know, I saw some soil pits. I took a field studies course and fell in love with soil and also had done an NRCS soil description, dynamic soil properties field event here. And then was like, wow. Soils are amazing. They're diverse. They aren't just brown all the way down. It differs across a hill slope. That's so cool. But I learned more about it. But what was interesting is a lot of farmers have seen soil pits, whether or not they're looking at it the same way that we are because of the tile drainage that gets installed. And I've actually had a couple of farmers say to me, like, that's when I started thinking about what's going on in the soil, the health of the soil, the microbial activity. Why are there these polka dot colors, and that's a field that's always consistently wet. I saw one of the farmers that I was sampling their fields, and I was like, soil pit, and he was like, I'm just replacing the tile drainage. A tree root clogged that pipe, and we were just geeking out on it. And he was like, 7 years ago was when I first had done this, and I realized there's a whole ecosystem underneath there, and he really took that to heart and started doing soil health.
Not a lot of people see soil.
Oh, it's a black
box.
box.
Never see it. And as soon as you open a pit, open a hole in the ground, you see those different colors and see something that's so much more dynamic than you ever thought was possible. Like, everybody thinks dirt is brown. It is not. It is not. It's more often, it's not. But, people don't know that until they see it for the first time. And as soon as they see it, it's just like an immediately change in the way they think about everything.
But it definitely depends on who you ask, because if you were someone who just loved soil inherently as it is, you'd be like, oh, great. This really wet soil is a carbon sink, has a ton of carbon. But if you're a farmer, that's a huge issue because you need to get the crops do not like to drown, just like I don't. But crops definitely don't either. They don't like to be wet like that.
You just can't do it.
Ultimately, soil is very important to many livelihoods, to many of the industries in Minnesota. Agriculture in the form of crops like corn and soybeans and sugar beets and wheat, but then also forestry too, and the different types of soil we have here. And that's just one place. It differs across the world, differs across the country.
Right. So, Bailey, in your professional or lived experiences through your profession, how do you think that farmers in Minnesota specifically view soil?
See, this is hard to answer because I hate to give you the extension, like, it depends, but it really
totally
is.
does.
It is not a monolith.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes I viewed it as nobody cares about it. It's just dirt. They manage, put a bunch of nutrients on and put a crop in. But there are people who really want to steward the land.
Yeah.
Like they really
they
care about it. They put work into it. Yeah,
They truly understand it.
they
Like,
see it as an
they-
ecosystem. So I guess it's hard for me to say because some people really do look at it like I'm a caretaker of the land. I'm a caretaker of the world. This has been in my family for generations and I want it to be better for my kids. Not that
Right.
people feel that way, but
Right.
their actions maybe don't align because
Yeah.
of the complexity of our agricultural system, our commodity structure, the fact
Well-
that it's a livelihood. You got to make money, and
Right.
caring for the soil and using cover crops and keeping roots year round isn't always the most profitable thing.
Yeah.
And we're a very short-term society. We want to see benefits right now when we really should be thinking about in the long term, what is going to be happening to this ecosystem, to the soil? What will my kids get?
And that's just like, obviously every person is going to have different interests, but also every person has a different level of education,
Mhm.
whether it's real world education or classroom education.
Mhm.
And their understanding of soil is going to be so different. There's pros to understanding it both ways, you know,
Mhm.
because you can't learn about something in a classroom and fully understand it. That just
No.
doesn't happen for anything, right?
Yep.
But there's also some things that you can only learn so much from applied knowledge, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to have your applied knowledge and maybe the knowledge of someone else who understands these fine-tuned details of like, why is this negatively charged molecule repelled from clays and soil? Like,
Yeah.
who cares, right? But like, they're like,
Yeah.
tell me why this is happening.
Yeah. You had lived experience working on this ranch, right? What did you know about soil prior to your school education?
It's existent.
It was there.
It exists, and it grew the plants that fed the cows. That
But did you even
gave
refer
us
to
our
it as
livelihood.
soil, or is it just earth, or is it dirt?
Dirt. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I grew up on a ranch, and much less farming. We put up hay for our livestock, but very much a ranch compared to a farm. And
Mhm.
so not the super direct connection to soil that farmers in Minnesota have. They're like, this is my plant. Why isn't it growing? You know?
Yeah, they're like actively having to till the soil and apply nutrients, where
Right.
you guys have a lot of pasture.
Yeah. Half of our ground is pasture. And
But for the pasture, you aren't doing any management, right?
No,
Like it's
nothing,
like
nothing.
nice. It just grows.
yeah, I mean, for
Lord's
all,
work.
for all intents and purposes,
Yeah.
it's native,
Yeah,
right?
it just exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it is quite different.
So all of these like different perspectives from the different rural perspectives of soils. We could go on and on about that for a very long time.
Well, but I'm from a
Exactly.
suburb,
Yeah.
and in most suburbs, you just have a lawn.
Right.
Got a half-acre lot.
Right.
It's a lawn. If you see the dirt,
Yeah.
right? Quotation marks, you can't see dirt. There's just this huge black box. Like, I just think that we don't have as close of a connection to it. We aren't really managing it.
Yeah.
So as a kid, it was brown dirt to me.
Mhm. Yeah. Which
That's
is
cool.
like literally to everyone, right? If they have a perception of soil, that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, but then even going to where Megan grew up, I'm obsessed with red soil. And to think there are people who just grew up and that was their normal.
Right. Because the soil in Minnesota, I was absolutely dumbfounded that it was so dark. I was like, I had never seen black soil before. Never in my life. I had barely seen brown soil before. Our soil is like, it's gray with tints of brown at the top, because that's the only part that I saw, right? People from that Western South Dakota area, we talk about the black soils of Minnesota and the Midwest, and they're like, man, they got it made. Like, that's incredible. Like,
Those guys got it easy.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's how Minnesota farmers look at Northern Iowa.
Yeah, you're right.
Those guys got it
Got it
easy.
easy.
So perspective does matter. But How about the soils in Alaska where you currently work?
my
In Canada,
gosh.
too. I mean, you work in a completely different... Like, the thing about soil is that they're ubiquitous around the earth. But that being said, how we manage them or lack thereof, in just the climate, organisms, relief, parent material, and time, the factors that affect what a soil looks like. Probably anyone who likes soil is geeking out because they're like, yeah, I do love the diversity. But like, I work with a lot of prairie soils, forest soils that have since been converted to ag soils, aka plowing it and planting on it. And it's important work, but it does differ from what Megan does.
Within the field of soil science broadly, I'm a pedologist. So I study how soils form, basically from understanding why soils look the way that they do, what that can tell us about how they formed, what's going on, what the landscape used to look like. Just all these visual aspects of soil, literally like color, how it feels.
Yup.
We get all of our senses in there trying to understand soil.
And the smell of a great soil is unmatched. You cannot,
immaculate.
dude.
If you've ever wondered why in the springtime, for those of you who live in an area that has winter,
True.
if like in like springtime when you get unreasonably happy and can start smelling things again, when you notice those days like early springtime, that's the soil. That's the soil coming back to life after a long hibernation.
Right. And geosmin and the microbial compound. They say natural antidepressant.
Yeah.
It just smells so good. You gotta make
wonderful.
candles out of it. Anyway, I'm sure one
Anyways.
exists.
Join the cold.
Yeah, come on in.
But
Sensory
anyways,
experience, taste, feel. No, kidding. Some people do taste.
Some people do taste it. And it's completely healthy to eat dirt.
Yeah, some people do. Geophagy, is that what you would call that?
I think so, yeah.
Like mud pies in other places. It's a cultural thing.
Actually a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, so when your small child is playing outside and they put dirt into their mouth, dude, let them. Like, that's the best.
Except if there's lead.
Which you should test.
Yeah, so know your soils, know your landscapes.
It's also one of the best things that you can do for your immune system.
Totally. I'd rather have my child lick soil than a countertop.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Because there's so much like...
Oh, they can get COVID.
Yeah.
On that countertop.
You can't get COVID from soil.
Just get lead poisoning, but whatever. Depends on where you're at.
You can get that
Pretend
from
it's
like
fun.
bowls in your kitchen. Never like in interactions with soil, dirt, however you want to call it, you will never be exposed to more good bacteria, microbes, everything than any other time in your life.
Oh, yep.
Like it exposes you to those things. It builds up your immune system. If you're actually eating it, it's a direct impact, right? But even if you're just handling it, like, there's all sorts of actual health benefits to dealing with soil.
Oh, totally.
Incredible.
And just like, I don't know, my kind of weird spiritual side is like just connecting with the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Being close to the earth. Like, you know, it's just something that I feel a lot of us we're disconnected from today, especially as someone who grew up in a suburb. I guess thinking of how we perceive soil and where we've come from, for me, it's like, let's protect the earth and let's do better for the next generation. Like, I'm part of the ecosystem. We all are part of it. We aren't humans who are better than that, right? We're like,
and we can't remove ourselves.
We're part of this. I am one with nature, and I'm not any better than any other animal or organism on this earth or soil. Like, soils to me, they're like your relatives, right? Like, it's not just this dead, static thing that's like, oh, it's particles. No, that's also part of the ecosystem too. I mean, me and Megan will do an episode on the land ethic and why we firmly believe this whole viewpoint of land being an organism and beyond that, part of our community.
Having inherent value.
Absolutely. I feel very passionate about that. But I used to walk past the soil science building and I would go, why would you ever study something so stupid?
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. I was an environmental science major and I was like, dude, what is that? And so the more I learned about the world, the more I realized that the ecosystem, I mean, the soil is so much cooler than anything else. Well, my bias is that I genuinely believe that it is one of the most fascinating places on the earth. But yeah, that microbial life that is so active in healthy soil that it makes soil alive. It's not
That's
static.
that living component of soil that no one thinks about.
Oh no,
Amazing.
it ain't dirt.
No.
It's an entire ecosystem down there.
Yeah.
Small
Beautiful.
critters, large critters,
Yeah.
whole gamut.
So pedology,
We really went on a
study of
tangent.
soil formation,
Yes.
which is not actually understood by a whole lot of soil scientists. There's many different aspects of soil science. So pedology is a very small part of it. I always think of it as like it had to have been the initial thing that we understood about soil, because someone along the lines had to have been like, why do plants grow well in this soil versus this one? And it leads you down a soil biology path, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the value of land.
Right.
Why
right.
is some land more valuable than other parts?
Right.
Well, if you put the whole picture together, you're like, well, this wetland doesn't really grow corn well.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But then in doing any of those deep dives into it, you have to understand soil.
Mm-hmm.
Just how it looks and why, if you find a specific structure in the soil, what does that mean for plant growth or whatever it is? So we had to understand soil formation first, and then it has given rise to all of these subdisciplines of soil microbiology, soil chemistry, soil physics, hydrology, and all that kind of stuff. It's all within this huge umbrella of soil science, which I love about soils because it's incredibly interdisciplinary.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally do anything within it.
Mm-hmm.
So
What is
cryo as in
cryopathology?
right. So cryo as in ice.
Ooh.
So how does ice influence the formation of soil? And for me specifically, it's how does the formation of ice influence soil development?
Mm-hmm. And actually, it's really fascinating.
It's
It's
fascinating.
actually, the more you learn about it, you realize the less we actually really know about
Totally.
it, which is crazy.
We have seasonally frozen soils like we do in Minnesota or areas of the northern continental U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also have permafrost.
Can you describe the definition of permafrost, or just describe permafrost?
I sure can. Yes. So within cryopedology, I study permafrost affected soils.
Mm-hmm.
Soil is
Yes.
this whole living system of all these different components. Permafrost is, by definition, any material that has been perennially frozen for more than 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's made it through one summer, one growing season, and it's still frozen.
Mm.
And the other key point of that, like by definition, it's a thermal state with a low enough temperature. It's less than 0 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
The most common medium of permafrost is soils.
Yes.
But so that's why like permafrost is a more like all-encompassing term.
You work in an area where agriculture is not really,
It's not a thing.
they cannot do it.
Yeah, it's not a thing because the soils are frozen.
Rest in peace. So, like, how do those soils differ from what we
Yeah.
see here in Minnesota? If we aren't doing agriculture there, what is the
Right.
land like? Vegetation? What is it like up in these remote parts of Alaska
It
where you're
depen-
studying?
Where permafrost is?
Sure, I bet it's
That's
variable.
a huge question.
That's huge, but in Minnesota, a lot of it has been converted to these fields for ag.
So generally the vegetation, it changes as you go further north. So a lot of the permafrost in Alaska, because not all Alaska is underlain by permafrost,
Mm-hmm.
the southernmost extent of permafrost is usually covered by boreal forest. It's usually black and white spruce trees.
Mm-hmm.
This is specifically the case in Alaska and Canada. I've never been to permafrost areas in Europe or Russia or anywhere else,
Yeah.
but it's generally the same trend all across the Arctic.
Okay.
The southernmost extents are boreal forest, and then there's a gradual transition as you move north towards the North Pole. You lose the trees. It gets too cold to grow any significant vegetation. So your vegetation just completely changes to moss and small Arctic dwarf shrubs and blueberries.
It's interesting too how the vegetation that is growing on soil impacts the soil, but then also the other way around.
Right.
People aren't managing the land really, right? You know,
Yes.
kind of, but like you and I
Right.
both say we work with soil.
Right.
We do
We're both soil
different
scientists.
things.
Yeah, so there's
Differ.
variations in our background. There's variations within soil science.
Mm.
Soil scientists think about soils differently.
Oh, totally.
It's incredible.
Yeah, depending on your perspective of what's going on. I mean, Megan, she's going to get a PhD. I'm going to get a master's from the same department and same program. But even with other people who have the same degree, we might have learned different things.
We're both pedologists at heart, even though Bailey's got a slightly different job title and sometimes won't admit she's a pedologist, but she is.
These soil health people. I just think that in the world that I work in, it's very easy to say the top 6 inches is what we manage. And that's what we need to know. And that's so wrong. And that's going to be a second episode where me and Megan just go off on those 6-inch girls. No more 6 inches. We're done with that. We're moving deeper.
That's the PG
we are
version.
digging deeper. That is the PG version. I am so tired of it. I will go on a 1-hour rant.
It should get like an explicit designation.
Yes. You need to know the full picture. And by only looking at the top 6 inches, you miss, oh my gosh, so much. But a lot of the soil health people would say you did your 6-inch soil sample, you know what nutrients are limited, and you're good to go. No, just had to jump in and quickly just say that. Sorry, but it does bother me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So
that's why I don't lump me in with those soil health. I love soil health, but I also don't lump me in there.
Yeah, I mean that's to a certain extent it's your professional training, but you have a much more broad understanding of soil in general compared to other soil health folks.
For me, to only look at the top 6 inches is such a disservice to the soils as a whole.
Yeah.
So I do feel very passionate that the soil health folks love them.
Yeah.
Stop only doing 6-inch soil samples, I swear to God.
Yeah.
Please. This is my request. This is my final request. Please, dude. Roots go so much deeper.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And also, it's just freaking cool, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's so cool.
I hate to say that too, but it literally is.
Oh, no. If it's not obvious already, we're very passionate about soil. And like, you're sitting inside right now in a fully like artificial environment.
Miss soil.
You should see how excited we get in a pit.
Like, oh, dude, we're going to bring these mics into a pit so soon.
Let's backtrack a little bit because I feel like we both have a general understanding of how we got to where we are and where those turning points in our lives were. Oh, wow. This isn't dirt anymore. This is soil. And I'm going to dedicate my life to studying it and being so passionate about it, like that we talk about it on a podcast in our free time.
Like, happy Sunday.
You know, so we've all like, we've both had varying degrees of interactions with folks that don't care about soil. They don't understand our family members. They don't understand why we're in soil. Like, what are you doing with your life? And I try to explain, and then they're like, "Oh yes, that's so good for you."
Even my own boyfriend, literally, I asked him what's his favorite thing about soil, and he goes, "That it makes you happy." I'm like, "Come on,
wrong answer. Try again."
Irrigation. Come on, man, just say one thing. But no, he's an electrician. He likes soil, but if anything, it's a nuisance in his way. They've got to dig through to get the wire in the ground.
Yeah. So we have all of these interactions with people in our day-to-day lives. But we've also both had a lot of interactions with students in their journey of understanding soils for the first time, whether through helping out with field studies, classes, which is basically like 20, 25 students. You take them out into the field. You're just describing soils for 2 weeks. It's a fully immersive field experience, just understanding the soils, landscape. It's amazing.
Going across the state of Minnesota, just seeing that diversity. I mean, Northwest Minnesota versus Southeast Minnesota, they're just so different.
Yeah.
It is so cool.
It's incredible.
It is.
So the
I
next
actually
time
like
you're
that place.
driving through the Midwest and you're like, this landscape is so boring, just imagine that soil below is still completely different from 1 mile to the next, from 100 feet to the next. It's all different, no matter how boring it looks outside of your car window.
The above ground is pretty boring. You gotta look below ground.
What, in your opinion, what changes in that week with students? You know what I mean? Like, what makes them appreciate the soil even more? And how can we extrapolate that feeling to the general public?
I think what's fun is when we can all add a little layer
Yeah.
of understanding and perspective to what's in front of us. And then I think on the end of, there's the students who are in the pit describing it actively.
Yeah.
They're getting the sand, silt, clay percentages, which is important.
Right.
But it's also fun to be on the other side to put the whole picture together.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, how does this fit into what we know about soils? How does it not fit?
Yeah.
What does it tell us about this larger theme and concept we're trying to understand? Because on contest day, they have to understand that because they're on their own.
Right.
But I think I really have enjoyed both sides of it.
It's basically, they have to turn their physical observations.
Become detectives of the landscape.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you have your observations that you made, and then you're connecting that with big landscape level soil properties that tell you things about that landscape and how it operates, and whether or not you can grow crops on it, whether or not this exact point is going to be good for root growth, root development, nutrients, whatever it is.
It's so much fun just to be there with other people who can really appreciate and see the beauty and just the fascination with this ecosystem and just this entire kind of canvas of the earth. Yeah. Right? That is a historical record, but also some of the most dynamic places on the earth. I mean, in this soil. And we get to just see a little profile of it. Yeah. We describe it and ultimately shapes what you know about a place. And I think that's just the coolest thing.
Yeah. Why do you think students fall in love with soil? Like what really gets them from like just kind of a nonchalant interest to like I will defend soil with my life, and if anyone calls it dirt, I'm coming after them, sort of thing. My big question is it something we can actually do? Is it an experience that you can give someone? Or is it something inherent about our human nature that someone already has to be like in touch with that side of themselves to be able to make that connection to soil and get that almost emotional attachment, right?
It's totally,
Yeah. And so that's been one of my largest questions, because like it literally happens without fail. Like the students who join soil judging, they become believers. Like lifelong believers.
I would actually like to know their side of the story, because I guess we see it like they came from this general interest to here, but like they might describe it different.
Right, because if you think about it, and we've talked about this before, but all of those students come from different backgrounds. In Minnesota, from kids that grew up in the city having absolutely no connection to soil. Like they grew up in a concrete jungle.
Yeah.
And what in the world changed in their life? Like, I'm so immensely curious because I don't have that perspective. Like, how did they get here? And how do we convert everyone on the earth?
Love knew it.
Yes. Here's my life goal.
Yeah, so Megan's going to convert all
conversion to soil science. Get ready.
What are we at? 8 billion people right now? Yeah. So you got
I've
a couple soil scientists on your side.
I don't know.
25. Get those numbers up. It's kind of the multiplier effect. They go out and bring 3 of their friends to soil judging, and then they bring 3 of their friends, and we all just kind of do a multi-level marketing scheme on soil.
Knocking on doors and be like, I'm sorry.
Have you heard of soil?
Do you have time today to just talk about our Lord and Savior soil?
Our Mother Earth and her soil. Please. If you have time to talk about your relative soil.
Yeah.
The landscape in front of you.
I don't know. I want to understand what it is because I want to be a better educator for soil science.
Well, then I guess like some of it is you or the teacher, right? Like your advisor, Nick, his passion for soil is huge. Like just seeing someone being so excited about dirt and soil, you might look at it and go,
You're just
why?
Like confused. We've both had that experience individually.
Sure. And I can remember the exact flip where it was day 3 of field studies. And I was like, I got to go out here.
Yeah.
And it was other people telling me, damn, you got bit. by the bug.
you
And I
got
was
that
like,
bug.
kind of. Actually, I went home last night and I researched glaciers for 4 hours. I did go to bed till 3 a.m., but I had to be here at 6. I just couldn't stop. But yeah, it's the combination of having someone in your life who's very passionate about the subject, who can get you excited. But then I do think part of it is kind of your respect, reverence, or just understanding of we're part of the earth, like the land ethic, you know. I didn't always know it was called the land ethic, but I did always feel that.
There was something that you felt or knew but lacked the terms to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't know what to call it, like the land ethic. I just knew that I respected. I always thought landscapes were so cool, and I always wanted to understand them. I just want to understand everything outside of my car window. Like, why does everything look the way that it does? Why is that? Why are all those plants there? Why is the landscape like that? Why does this all make sense in this location? And then it was like, hold up. Soil is this all-encompassing thing that actually answers all that.
We use
so then I was
the
like,
above-ground clues to guess what the soil looks like, which is a very efficient method until you're standing in a cornfield. But it's all clues to what's underground. But then the underground part still might surprise you.
That's right. That is right.
But
because you've also been a TA for basic soils. You've seen some of those students go to field studies. Go from field studies to soil judge. So like it's kind of this progression of this stepwise ladder to like next thing they know, like some of them learn like, how do I do soil research? How do I find a job in soil conservation? So they take it beyond the university. They're ready to go fight for soil, dude.
They're
on team soil.
And I had a very similar experience in my undergrad because I had a professor that I more or less idolized. Coolest person ever. She was talking about dirt. She made it seem cool. And so I simultaneously, unknowingly, fell in love with soil, but I was also hyper fixated on how she was teaching about soil because she was a very, very good and effective teacher that I had in different subjects, but I liked all those other subjects. You know, it was like this one person was like, you know, showing me a different part of the world.
She taught you something you loved.
Yeah, for sure.
The power of a good educator is huge.
It's incredible, yeah.
But I think what a really effective educator does is developing someone else's curiosity and interest in the subject where they go home and they're like, I need to know more. And I think about that a lot in my job. Like, I could just talk about soil and be passionate about it. But if you just go, cool, she's passionate, but you walk away from that and you don't feel this desire to learn more, dig deeper, literally, physically, metaphorically, you know, then you're a good educator, but are you a great educator? Like a great educator is someone who gets people to be curious. Just dig deeper.
What's one thing that you wish everyone knew about soil? I think my one would be that soil is the foundation of life. I feel like people might understand that, but, you know, they think about like, oh, what do I need in my day-to-day life? I need food, water, shelter, and basic necessities, right? Well, your food comes from soil. Your clean drinking water would not exist if we didn't have soil. Soil literally purifies water because if we didn't have soil and we just had straight bedrock to the ocean, all of your precipitation that falls on the bedrock would immediately run off and it would become salt water. We would not have drinking water.
Heck no.
And if you want to talk about shelter, you know, how do you build shelter? You build it out of maybe wood, different textiles that all come from soil.
Bricks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All of these things. Bricks are literally soil.
For real.
And so like all of our basic necessities that we need for life come from soil.
Yes.
And so I need people to make that connection, even if that's the only connection that you make. And if you don't appreciate soil for the living, dynamic ecosystem that it is, fine. I know I'm weird.
You'll get there in time.
You'll get there. We'll convert you eventually. But, you know, just to understand that we would not have life without soil.
Yeah.
I think in the most basic sense, you have to understand that.
Oh, Oh, totally. So first off, I second that. I signed my name to that one. Check. I like that. I guess like another thing I'd add is that, I mean, not only, soil being the foundation of life, but I mean, almost everything about where humans live, how humans use the land, how we've, as like a society and humans have adapted and culture has formed over time. I mean, look back in history, like everything is tied back to the soil, to the landforms, to the earth. I mean, just, Like I keep talking about this museum I was at a couple days ago, but it all is part of this river in Minnesota, the Minnesota River, which is part of this very sacred location for the Dakota people there. Ultimately, this very fertile soil, they came there, but it was the site of a treaty, which ultimately was where a lot of land was seized.
Yeah, because it was fertile.
Right. It was, I mean, that at that point, the reciprocal relationship with the Dakota people with these lands and how they viewed it not just as a commodity or a resource you own. To them, it's a relative, which is, I guess, in my view, it's this kinship that we're part of that community. And I just thought it was interesting how the soil shapes how we use that land, why people go there, the culture that's formed around that as well. I just think if you look back in history, underneath it, literally and also metaphorically, freaking soil is the answer.
It is.
So
it's literally everything. And
it's so true.
And if you think you're disconnected from it now, you're absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about where you grew up, that type of soil is going to determine what kind of commodities can be grown there, how you're going to be able to make a way of life. And like, that's what your family came from. That's what they lived through. And that's what made you you. And I think that's beautiful. And I love it. And I know we're going to have more conversations about this because we're obsessed with this fact.
Also the fact that we literally came from soil.
We did. And we will be soil again.
TNS, temporarily not soil. We're all in the pipeline.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And who's that quote? That's Francis Holt.
Francis Holt. Good guy.
Yeah. We're all temporarily not soil.
Cheers. Foundational life. We're all connected to it. It's the great connector.
Yeah.
Wendell Berry.
That's the other point.
It is such a great connector.
It's
It's this ecosystem underpinning all of life.
It literally connects you to the earth. It connects you to all other living beings. It connects you to other people that live the same way. In my world now, through the avenue of soil science, I've made connections internationally, like all across the U.S., across Alaska, different countries, and not just to different soils, to different people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's opened up my world in ways that I never thought would be possible. And it's literally all through soil.
Yes, I agree.
Do we have an actual definition?
You didn't like the one that was super sciencey, jargony, technical, just the blandest.
Yeah, no. Do we think we can come up with our own definition of soil?
Oh, absolutely. What comes to your mind?
My definition of soil.
Yes.
In all transparency, I came up with this beforehand. So, my definition of soil.
Yes.
Soil is a complex living system, heart and soul of ecosystems and human culture, and fosters life and community within itself and all living things.
Oh my gosh. That is beautiful. Love how you said heart and soul. All these other definitions, you know, they're just like, and it's like, you forgot to connect with the people emotionally.
Yeah.
And yours is so true.
And
complex too. Very complex.
Oh, thank you. I love how for years my phone always autocorrects soil to soul.
Yes.
Constantly, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's so funny because, you know, soils are the souls of ecosystems, of life on Earth. Like, we wouldn't be here without it, right?
Because they're one and the same. One and the same.
One and the same.
I liked your definition. You versus Agriculture Victoria. I rate yours better. You win this competition.
Nice.
That was great. I feel like you covered it and did great. complex, and I can tell I'm shaking over here. I'm so excited. Anyway. God, you got me jazzed up.
Love it.
To keep it short and sweet, for my definition, I said, soil is the overlooked half of every ecosystem, the thread linking all life through transformation and renewal. And I guess I like that this one emphasizes that with the earth and with ecosystems, we always think about the plants above ground. We always think about the trees, and maybe you think of earthworms, like it's the closest thing
Yeah.
to
Below
soil
ground.
biology and below ground. But I don't know, even then it's like, oh, the earthworms that we see on the sidewalk after it rains.
Yeah.
Not necessarily thinking about what they're doing below ground, but it's an entire other side of the surface that we aren't even really thinking about it at all. And
Totally.
I gave Megan an example earlier. So I like to make art. I'm not an artist because I'm not good at it. I like to make art.
She's actually very good at it.
It's fun. But, you know, when I would do landscape paintings, I'd always have trees and flowers and plants, but I would always stop at the surface of the earth and be like, oh, everything above is part of the landscape. And then I started to learn more about soil, learn more about the earth. And now I will never do a landscape painting or anything with flowers and plants if it doesn't include soil and roots, because it's part of it. It has to be included.
Yeah.
And like, that's when I would tell people, my world doubled in size because of this, like knowing more. So that's why I always say the overlooked half.
Yeah.
I said half just because for me it was like world doubling in size, because now it's not just what's above ground, but it's what's below ground too.
Yeah.
That, in all honesty, for me was a black box, and not like black soil, like straight up not something I thought about.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I just
Yeah. I think there's so many people in your situation. Like, that's probably the majority of people think of soil as a black box.
Yeah.
And emphasize the black part.
Oh, dude, if they even think about that, they might just be like, it's brown.
Brown.
That's right.
Bailey, do you want to take us out with your wonderful, comprehensive, poetic definition of soil?
Yeah, let's do this. Soil is a living, dynamic ecosystem, Earth's interface where biology, chemistry, physics, and the environment converge to sustain life. It is the foundation of ecosystems and life itself, a storyteller and a record keeper that holds the memory of ecosystems, cultures, climate, organisms, and time. Soil is a connector, weaving together biological activity, chemical reactions, physical processes, and environmental inputs in a continuous process of transformation. This finite, life-giving, and living resource is an ever-evolving mosaic of minerals, organic matter, pores, and organisms driving the cycles of water, carbon, and nutrients, Earth's metabolism. Soils are incredibly diverse, taking unique forms across the landscapes and the world, yet they all serve as the soul of the Earth, the overlooked half of every ecosystem, the thread that connects all living things through transformation, renewal, and the cycles of life and death.
That's amazing. Like the
She's crying right now.
artist
She's crying.
the waterworks are going.
The injurious waste we processed by the soil.
Yeah, it's also acid rain.
That apparently we're getting a lot more of for these days. So now it's your turn. How do you think about soil? Do you agree with our definitions? We are eager to hear from you. That's a wrap for this episode of The Low Down Underground. If you enjoyed it, share it with a soil enthusiast or a friend who is soon to become a soil enthusiast. Until next time, keep digging into the soils and the landscapes around you.